So I'm no expert, but my understanding is it's not supposed to move like that. So today we're gonna do a few projects here. We're gonna make at least one repair. I'm gonna show you a second repair I've already made. Then we're gonna go around and do diagnostics on all of the suspension components and see if we can make this Jeep safe to drive. Now, I love Jeeps. I bought this for my son to be a project that we worked on together, and I would like to fully rebuild it. But I don't have deep enough pockets to just jump in and do that. If I did, I'd be Jeep content for the next month or two. But as it is, we're gonna work through it one thing at a time. First thing I've gotta do is just make it safe for him to have on the road. I already did one video going around and showing all the issues with this Jeep, and there are a lot of them. We've made plans that my son's on spring break the first week of March. We're gonna tear everything off of this and completely repaint it while he's on spring break. We'll have 9 days to try to paint this Jeep. Another step before we paint it is to treat the underside and deal with all the rust that we've got. But I'm getting way ahead of myself. I don't need to talk about my big picture plans for this Jeep. Let's just get to work and deal with the problems that are immediate right now. My son is supposed to be home any minute so that we can start on this together. While we're waiting on him, I'll show you a repair that I made a couple days ago with my father-in-law. I told him that the steering was loose, and I wanted to see if he could come take a look at it with me. And what we found is that the steering box, where the steering shaft bolts onto the steering box, the connection was loose. He also tightened up the actual steering box. Let me get the GoPro and show you that. So if you're not familiar, this is the steering box. And your steering shaft runs from the wheel down here to a carrier bearing. And then that shaft connects to that box right down here. So right here is the steering box. Here's the pitman arm. And above that, we've got this first knuckle here where it attaches to the steering box, and the bolt in this was actually loose, giving us a bunch of play. And then after tightening that bolt up, my father-in-law took this nut loose, turned this bolt or adjustment screw down maybe a half turn or less, and then tightened that back down. Steering feels tighter, even though the vehicle still sways all over. I guess it would be relevant at this point to mention the topic of the death wobble. I've been watching a ton of videos on it because with the issues this have, I have not went highway speeds, but I have got to 55 and the steering wheel starts to shake. And I'm not making too big a deal of that until I make basic repairs and check everything out. And then we'll worry about it once we've done that. So somehow, when we went to pick it up, we spotted all the rust, and we were banging on the rust and crawled under it and looked at all the faults we could find, and we did not see this didn't have a bolt in it. So that's definitely not helping. This Jeep is 24 years old, so I'm assuming everything on it is going to be rusty and hard to break loose. And I mean, you can literally see the rust. So about 15 minutes ago, I sprayed some rust patrol on it, and I've just been letting that soak. Rust Patrol is a product that's been working great for me as a penetrating oil and a lubricant. I'm dying to take this loose, but my son is supposed to be here any minute. I'll just try one little tug on that. Oh yeah, that came loose right away. I don't know if it would have anyway, or if the Rust Patrol helped, but I'll take what I can get. Since the other side's already broke loose, we're going to try this side, see if we can get everything broke loose. Oh yeah, nice and easy. That's good fortune there. But we could still have an issue with the sway link we're replacing not wanting to separate from the sway bar, or the anti-sway bar. My intention was to come back every so often and spray more of that Rust Patrol on, but it's completely covering it still. And it's supposed to creep down in there, so maybe one application is all you need. Okay, this is not seized up inside of the bushing. Here, come on down here and hold that. I grabbed it. Just don't. Oh yeah. I was expecting all of these to be a fight, and nothing has been so far. Just gonna tap on the side of this just to kind of give a little impact to see if it frees it up. And I think because I have new nuts with the new linkages, I'm gonna put this nut on and try tapping that. So ideally I'd have a fork that goes in between here for prying, but I don't have one. Try putting a little leverage on it with the screwdriver and then just tapping the top. I put the bolt back in the other side that originally didn't have one to try to hold the sway bar still. I've been spraying that and tapping on it and prying on it, haven't been able to get it off. So I ran to O'Reilly's and I rented a ball joint fork and a Pitman arm puller. Pretty sure either of these will do the job. I'm gonna try the fork first. This part, which is just basically a stock replacement, is available at all the parts stores that I visited. But the bolt for it wasn't. I had to special order the bolt, but it's only like $5 and it was here in a few days. Just gonna clean this up a little bit before bolting on the new one. Alright, now ideally I'd put some anti-seize on this, but I don't have any anti-seize. I need to get some. So we're gonna put a little rust patrol on it before we put it in there. And that does have a taper on it. I didn't realize that the stud was tapered. Tightening this up, I started to just put a socket on the top, but that doesn't work because the whole thing pivots in there. It rotates, so you have to use a wrench and an Allen to hold this from pivoting. Other than needing the fork to drive this off, that repair is pretty simple and straightforward. I'm going to put the other one on and then we'll move on to the other potential problems. So as soon as I did it, see, it moves almost as far, but what I noticed right away is I have to push really hard. Before it was like an effortless thing to move it. The first thing here that's weird is this squeaking noise. Go ahead and work the steering wheel. Alright, when I'm down here it sounds like it's right there. But when you're in the driver's seat, it sounds like it's right there at the top. So I'm going to spray a little lube in between the dash and the steering wheel and see if that does anything. And then we'll keep looking for it if it doesn't. Okay, try again. Before I get under the car, I'm just going to hit all of these little U-joints and bearings under the hood for the steering linkage. Okay, do it. Looks like you found it. Hopefully this micro ceramic, universal ceramic lubricant spray, extremely durable, guaranteed to stay in place, extended operation lifespan. This was sent to me with the lube shuttle grease gun kit. So hopefully that's good stuff. But it definitely eliminated the squeak, and it's right where the steering shaft goes up into the dash, right through the firewall. Well, we've got this here, though. I'm just going to hit all of these components that move with it. All right, so our first diagnostic is I've got Gage up in the driver's seat, and he's going to wiggle the steering wheel, and we're going to look for movement that shouldn't be there. and then we'll lift the Jeep after that. Find the pitman arm is right here. All right, go ahead. Okay, pitman arm doesn't seem to have any movement. Keep going. I don't see any slop on this side. We'll come check the tie rod end. I don't see any slop there. Everything on the steering components looks pretty good. The little bit of movement I'm getting here, the other wheel's moving too. That does not feel like slop. Let's check it this direction. Feels good. If it was going in every direction at once, that's probably a wheel bearing. So I don't see anything here that indicates bad tie rods or ball joints. Previous owners said they replaced the ball joints in 2023. So they shouldn't be bad. I think I'll go ahead and lift up the back, look around under it, check for bad wheel bearings there. Then we're gonna check the shocks and the spring. So I kind of thought there would be a scientific way to check the shocks, and you can disconnect the shocks and check how tight they are and how quickly they spring back. But most people said the best way to check shocks is push down on the bumper and see if it bounces afterwards. It comes up and sticks. It means the shocks are probably good. And one way to check springs is by the ride height. And the ride height is what it's supposed to be. So I think the shocks and springs are good. Now we're going to take it for a test drive and see if it shimmies all over the place like it was before. On the test drive, we found that a lot of the shake that it had when you got up to speed, mostly that's gone. It feels pretty smooth actually. It still has a little bit of that Jeep sway, a little bit top heavy, but it's been a while since I had a Jeep. I'm not sure if it's normal or not, but mostly handles pretty decent. But the steering wheel is cocked to the right whenever you're driving, which means the drag link needs to be extended or shortened. The drag link needs to be shortened. So we're going to do that real quick. So all we do is take these loose. And then turn this. Going the wrong way. Are you sure? Positive. That's funny. Yeah, right there. All right. So that should have the steering wheel pointing straight forward when we're driving. Now we've centered up the steering wheel so that when you're driving straight, the wheel's pointed straight. We also took measurements on the front side of the front tires and the back side of the front tires to make sure that we got the exact same measurement. And because we have no uneven tire wear, I think our alignment's good. And something I didn't know about Jeeps is that on a stock Jeep, none of the other angles can be adjusted by an alignment shop. Nothing else down there can really be adjusted except for your toe in or your cast out. So I really don't see a need to even go get an alignment. I actually feel pretty good about this, at least for now. I appreciate you guys taking time to watch this video. I'll put links on the screen to a couple more of our videos, and I'll see you next time.